The Women's Fund for Scotland is Scotland's only dedicated fund for women and girls. I'm Susan Morrison, and this is our podcast where we talk to inspiring women improving the lives of those women and girls today. A small group might not sound very powerful, but when it's a small group of women and they've got WEvolution behind them, well, they can be very powerful, as Karen tells us. Hello, Karen from WEvolution.
Hi, Susan.
Now, that name, WEvolution, so it's not a wee revolution, it's a we revolution, evolution.
Yes, it is. It's a we, as in we do it ourselves, we do it together, we do it with everyone.
Although, to be fair, a wee revolution can be a dangerous thing, just a little toty movement can, because I always think, women getting together can be quite dangerous. I mean, look at Macbeth, it was just 3 women there.
I don't know about dangerous, but definitely powerful.
Oh, in Macbeth's case, it was the most unwelcome career advice ever. I should really just have ignored those 3 dames, but never mind. But yeah, women coming together can be really powerful. Can you just tell us a little bit about the background of WEvolution?
Yeah, so it was a charity that started in 2011 and based on the self-help group movement in India. A group of 13 women from impoverished backgrounds, marginalized backgrounds, went out to India to be introduced to the whole idea of small groups of women coming together to better their lives. And so that was brought back to Scotland to see what we could do here. And that started the whole self-reliant group movement that has now recently changed its name to Small Powerful Group Movement. The very first group that started as part of WEvolution was in Provan Mill, and a group of women there started up a lunch club which grew and grew and grew, and within a couple of years they completely took over a room in the basement, and with matching funding that they sourced themselves and funding from WEvolution, they opened a laundrette called Fluff and Fold, which is still going strong now and employs 3 people.
What a fabulous title. Fluff and Fold.
Fluff and Fold.
I also love the way you say that they took over the room. It's like, shh, we'll just take it over. We'll just put
it wasn't being used for anything.
We'll stick in some washing machines. Nobody will notice.
And since then, WEvolution has supported over 1,000 women to come together in different groups to incubate ideas about starting businesses, or even just coming together as support groups for one another.
Oh, so I was right, in fact. Macbeth's witches are a small, powerful group.
Yes, indeed.
So can I just take you back a little bit? So is this akin to what I used to know as microcredit, microloans?
No, they do microloans, but to a group, not to an individual.
Right.
Yeah, so it is different from that point of view. So the whole idea mainly is to be more self-reliant and do it yourselves.
And bringing together, as you say, these groups into small, powerful groups. How small does a group have to be to get powerful?
A group of 3. Yes. A group of 3 witches together. And it can go up to, I think probably the biggest group we've got has got 10.
That's still quite small, though, isn't it? I mean, it makes a massive multinational. And how does it actually work?
So basically, most women don't know that they have skills. A lot of marginalised women, from living on the schemes, from marginalised backgrounds, from benefits, don't know that they have skills that they can actually use and monetize. And so WEvolution introduces women and supports them to start these groups. And the groups come together preferably weekly, but sometimes it's monthly. Also, preferably face-to-face, but it can be done online as well. And these groups save together. So on average is £1 a week per person. And this savings pot slowly grows and grows and grows. And then it can be lent out to other members of the group. It can be to start up micro businesses. It can be for buying materials to start an idea or project. It can be used for the whole group as a whole if they don't want to lend it individually. But the idea is that, say you borrow £50, £100, then you pay back an extra tenner so that your savings pot grows as well. We have, I think, at the moment, I think there's about 150 micro businesses out of all of the different groups. People, crochet, knitting, creating various different craft things, candles, clothes. I make bras. Lots of tiny little micro businesses that are springing up, selling at craft fairs, Christmas fairs, all sorts of things like that, putting money back into the group for the group to save. People that aren't on benefits can obviously keep all of their money that they've earned, but people that are on benefits can take out small stipends from it, and plus all of their like voluntary expenses and travel and materials and things like that.
This is how building societies started. But where did you come up with the idea from? You did mention India.
So yes, it wasn't me. I've been part of WEvolution for 8 years. So this was going on for a couple of years before I joined. It was our founder, Noel Matthias. He is from Mumbai. He was a Catholic priest as well. And then he saw it, he knew of it and saw it happening round about him. And the whole inspiration came from his mum, Alice, who always had little side hustles going, and being able to educate her sons and keep a roof over their heads and food on the table. And so that's where the whole idea sprang from, or his inspiration. So that's why originally he took the women over to India to see if they could bring the idea back here to start it here in Scotland.
It makes really great sense the way you're explaining it, that you get, especially when you're talking about areas of what's the current Birds phrase now? Areas of economic deprivation.
Yeah.
You're never sure, are you?
No.
And then people putting in just £1 a week, and then women letting the money build up. Also, it reminds me of a Scottish tradition. Might not be just a Scottish tradition, called a menage.
Yeah.
An insult in Scottish society used to be, that's stupid, she couldn't run a menage.
Yes.
I've just realised my mother's a huge stock of Scottish insults, which says alarming things about my mother, really. But the idea of people coming together like this, women come together and giving the money out, it builds a bond, doesn't it?
It does, and vast trust as well, because to be able to, part with money, which is very, very hard to come by, and most people don't think they have anything spare, does instantly, you're investing a part of yourself into the group, and you're also building instant trust because you've all got control of all of the money. So it starts off very small, but soon, you do end up with quite a big pot of money. Since this side of COVID, most of it's into online bank accounts or whatever. But prior to COVID, it was all just literally in a tin that one person kept control of, So it builds trust, but it also gives you something that you're going to get some kind of payback from.
So how do these small, powerful groups find each other? I mean, first of all, how do the members of the small, powerful groups, we could call them SPGs.
SPGs, yeah.
SPGs. How do they find each other? Do they come to you, or?
It's different again. There's kind of like a pre-COVID and post-COVID.
Okay.
Pre-COVID, it was most people knew each other and were groups of friends, or they knew each other from a knitting group or a reading group, or something along those kind of ideas, and decided to branch out. Post-COVID has become online. So now WEvolution advertises on social media, and people that are interested then approach and fill in forms, and they get matched up by the staff of WEvolution, and then everything is explained. They're put into WhatsApp groups, everything is explained and talked about, and you go through a series of coaching, normally for about 6 weeks, and then at the end of it is decided whether you want to actually stay and become an SPG or not. And then there's groups, there's quite a lot of enticement, there's some trust money involved, which once you've been part of a group for a minimum of 3 months and regularly saving, regularly meeting, and you're meeting the criteria, then you can apply for trust money, which was something that was mainly from churches, out of which groups can have £100 each up to a maximum of £500, and that is as a gift that goes into the group's pot of money for the group to then do what they want with. But the idea is to grow the pot, so whether it's small loans between each other or business loans, something like that, and then with a little bit of interest paid back into.
So you must have, do you do sort of training and stuff like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of training, like to get the groups up and running, and there's training for that. But then once you've got an established group, then there's further training for that. There's a lot of workshops, a lot of business training ideas. There's finance training. There's lots of different workshops for making, for different crafting.
Once you've got your training and you've got your money, then you have to think about what you're going to invest in. And where do the ideas come from?
From the women themselves over the time. We'll find that an awful lot of women have these forgotten dreams that they want to, or they've always wanted to produce something. They've always wanted to be self-employed or an entrepreneur. And that was where most people get their ideas from, is that the first couple of weeks of becoming a group, there's an awful lot of different workshops and activities that we do with them to open up their minds and get them thinking. One of them is the Coke can challenge. So you're given an empty can of Coke and you're given 5 minutes, and in your small group of 3 people or whatever, what could you make out of this Coke can? And what could you produce out of a Coke can?
You could fill it with gravel and it could be a doorstop. That's a rubbish idea. I've just come up with that. Ignore that completely.
No, why not?
Are you allowed to cut the Coke can?
You can. It doesn't have to stay whole.
Okay. You could cut the Coke can down the sides, right, and squish it and turn it into a tea light.
Give a group of women 5 minutes to think about what they could do, and suddenly you'll end up with a list of at least 25, 30 things, products long, like jewelry, basic pen holders, watering cans, camping cookers, all sorts of different ideas come out. So if basically you can do all of that with a Coke can, what on earth could you do with anything else that you've got, you could lay your hands on? It's endless. And so this suddenly gets women's minds buzzing and all this, and they're like, what can I do? What can I produce? And that's where the ideas for their businesses start.
Now, you do realise, don't you? I'm going to go home after this. I'm going to have a can of Coke and I'm going to stare at that can for ages.
And decide what you're going to make.
What did I think of that? Why did I think of that? Why didn't I think of that? That must be such a fun workshop to sit in on, though.
Oh, it is. It's amazing. Yes. And every time I do it with people, with different women, that something else comes up that I hadn't even thought of before.
Have you got any examples of any products or anything that you've seen being made?
God, there's so many. There are a lot of crocheters or knitters, that people that have been doing that sitting at home for a long time have suddenly started to monetize that, which is brilliant, because it's also coming back into fashion, that knitted baby clothes and things like that as well. More sustainable products. So that's a good one. But there's one lady that makes chicken coops and egg honesty boxes and things like that. There's a group down in Inverclyde that run old-fashioned tea parties and sell tickets for that, and quite often theirs goes to, their profits go to local charities.
Inverclyde, we're going to come to that now, because you got a grant from the Women's Fund for Scotland, and I think it's been used in Inverclyde.
Yeah, it is. It's to try and get more groups together, to try and combine groups together, because there are quite a handful of little groups down there that are doing similar things, and so we were trying to see if we could bring them together, even if it wasn't as one big group, because it's better to keep the small groups, but try and see if they could cooperate with each other and produce bigger things. And that is starting to happen. So there were 3 individual groups with only 2 members in each group that have come together to hold Christmas fair. So they've come together to rent 2 tables between the 3 of them to sell their products and things like that. But it's to try and also aim at maybe people that have already got the startings of a business idea, or even maybe got a small business going already, and get those ladies to come together into support groups, because starting any kind of business is a very, very lonely job. And it's difficult to network, it's difficult to find out where you're heading or find out local information. And so we're hoping that is what we're trying to achieve, is women coming together so that they're not alone fighting. There is actually, a strong force behind them and a lot of support behind them. So we're finding that instead of just women from marginalised backgrounds coming together and discovering that they have something within them already, that they're trying to find people that maybe have a little idea or a small business already started that can be incubated and helped along.
Do you find that women sometimes have a bit of a confidence issue when it comes?
Oh God, yeah, imposter syndrome, and everything. As part of the training and the support of early groups is to give people the confidence, to give women the confidence, because so many women, they've been bringing up children, they've been out of the workforce, and your kids start school, and then suddenly it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I can't do anything. I'm worthless. I'm useless. And you're not. Women are just absolutely awesome. They've got so much going for them that it just takes a little bit of hand holding and a little bit of confidence, and away they go.
Do you think that's also one of the powers of that small group?
Oh, absolutely. And bigging each other up, that women should support each other. Yeah, none of this ripping down and tearing down. And you actually find that women from more deprived areas, when you do get together, they help each other up far more than from more middle class areas that feel as though they're in competition with their neighbours and in competition with other women. Whereas the women that we meet most of the time aren't. And you're there for each other, and also not just for your own group, but there's a whole movement. So there's across Scotland, there's partners in Manchester, Leeds, Wales, and Rotterdam. And across the whole movement, members of groups can contact anybody and anyone, and you'll get support from all of the women, not just the women within your own area or your own group. It's huge, and it is absolutely amazing.
Men have been doing this for a long time. We even have a term for it, the Old Boys Network.
Yes. But you see, the Old Boys Network are 9 times out of 10 are money, don't they? They're all old Etonians and things.
Yes, they are. They are. But women, the women that you're talking about, forming these small, powerful groups, which are all feeding into a larger, powerful group.
Yes.
I think if I was a member of the Old Boys Network, I would start to become quite nervous of these women.
And so they should, right?
Rightfully so, because it seems to me as if you've tapped into a huge reservoir of talent.
Definitely. There's every single female in Scotland is an underused asset.
Oh, I don't know about me. I'm used up. But all of the women, Scotland is a small country, and we don't really have enough people in it to do all the jobs and all the stuff that we need. So every human being is valuable, and you're tapping into a resource which I think is being overlooked.
Absolutely. We have come up with a saying is the forgotten entrepreneurs or the hidden entrepreneurs. And that's basically what we feel, that an awful lot of women from these kind of backgrounds, if they had an idea, wouldn't know where to go. But even if they did know where to go, they would just be laughed at or, poo-pooed out of the place. The job centres certainly wouldn't give them any support or any way forward. The first thing they'll say is, oh, you're going to lose your benefits, which instantly puts women off. But anywhere else as well that you go, people all say, where are you going to get your funding from? Where are you going to do this, that, and the other? You need to go and do it in a premises. How are you going to go about that? Whereas the angle from WEvolution is the self-reliance, is that you come together as a group, and with the savings, there's your funding. You start off small, you take baby steps. It's one step at a time. You don't jump into premises. You don't jump into having to have, own a shop front. You do it small, and you can do it from home, and you can do it while you're on benefits. You can't earn the money from it, but you could certainly get your name out there. You can get your goods, your products recognized. You can get a certain following. And then when the time is right, you can take that giant leap with the support of all of the rest of the women in Scotland to start the business and, to launch properly. And then you can do the coming off the benefits and all the scary stuff.
It's not scary. It's great though. I'm always interested. I'm also amused by the people that poo-poo these ideas. You're actually right. If a woman from the wrong background goes into a bank to try and get a loan,
no, it's true. It's just unbelievable. WEvolution do have a small business loans thing, which is to the group. But it can be one person within the group, but it's the loan is to the whole group. So they have the responsibility, and then holding the one person accountable for it. But it could be small loans from £100 up to 7,000, I think. But the interest is so tiny. And the repayment plans, and you can have repayment breaks, and all sorts, and stretch out the repayment period. And those are for launching businesses, or for testing ideas, business ideas.
Oh, you see, you just said something there that I think is really important, which is tremendous flexibility.
Yeah.
And women's lives are quite complicated.
Well, they are, and you never know what's going to happen the next day. You can't work for a couple of weeks because one of the kids is sick, all that kind of stuff. You just do not know. And so there is serious flexibility with it.
So that is one reason, again, why women supporting other women is valuable, because they understand the complexity of women's lives.
Absolutely.
And also, you said something, testing out. I think that's very important, because failure, despite what they might have said, is an option.
You can't grow anything without failing first. You have to have made mistakes along the way to learn from those mistakes to make something better. It has to happen. And especially with life out there at the moment, and it has been for the last few years, is that you do not know from one day to the next what's going to happen next. You don't know what the market's going to be like out there. You don't know who's going to buy your products, if there's going to be an interest in it. Because what used to, people did want a couple of years ago, nobody could even look at now. It's just the market is changing almost daily, and so people's products and ideas have to change to go with it. And if you do manage to get a loan from somewhere or funding from someone, then you only have a year. You have to tick all the boxes that that company gave you for the funding. And then if you want to apply for them again, you have to change your boxes. So if you decide that you want to make something and you go for funding for it, then next year you've actually got to make something different, because you've done that last year and you ticked all their boxes last year. So to get that same funding, you now have to reimagine yourself. So being part of a small, powerful group, you don't have to. You are completely and utterly in charge of what you do, how you do it, and how long you do it for, because for the most part you're self-funded.
And again, it's that resilience within the group as well. But the other thing that I think fascinating is, if you help women, particularly from deprived backgrounds, you're helping an entire family.
Absolutely.
A WEvolution can change the world.
It's so true that I have 5 children. A single
Lord.
Single mum. And when I got into WEvolution, was introduced to WEvolution, it took a couple of years to get my head around the whole idea that I am not useless, and I am not, that there are things that I can do. And then I started producing things, started making, and it influenced, changed my life, but also my kids. My 13-year-old son at the time, first year in high school, asked for a sewing machine for Christmas. And I'm like, right, okay. Bought him a sewing machine. He spent the whole week and a half until term started making waistcoats to put Nerf bullets in, and sold them all to his friends at school.
Wow.
Absolutely brilliant. My other wee son was drawing and making pictures, took them into his school and got his teacher to laminate them, and then chopped them all up, sold them to the teacher, who gave them out to the class as well done presents. So he started this little bookmark business. It's just kind of like, and that's, my kids are still like that now. Every single thing they go, oh, that's a good idea, we can do that. And they've got such an entrepreneurial spirit going on about them.
And then
I make mastectomy bras. My first business venture with WEvolution support was a company called Miss Fix It. So I decided that there's lots of little old women out there that don't like strange men in their houses to fix things, but would accept a strange woman. And I was that woman. And it was an amazing little, started off tiny, wanted to do it 10 till 2 when the kids were at school. And went in, did decorating, hate decorating, by the way, but I did it. Flat pack building, putting up shelves, tiling, plastering. So yeah, WEvolution provided the training for me. They sent me on plastering course, laminate floor course, all this kind of stuff that they paid for and allowed me to do this as a business. But very soon 10 till 2 turned into evenings, and then it turned into weekends, and then all of a sudden my kids were eating takeaways 5 nights a week. And I just couldn't say no, though, because there were so many people that needed help. But then COVID happened and lockdown happened, so that put a stop to it. So I couldn't go into people's houses anymore. So the first couple of months was absolutely great. And then I discovered that COVID wasn't the worst thing that you could catch. And I got necrotizing fasciitis, which is a flesh-eating bug.
I know. Oh my goodness me.
So within 6 hours of being in hospital in absolute agony, I was on an operating table having a mastectomy and a huge part of my upper body flesh removed, with only a 30% chance of walking out of the hospital. But yeah, I survived. I did, with quite a big bit of my body missing. Since then, I haven't been physically capable of going back to the DIY job.
No.
But discovered that there's a disgusting lack of options and choice for women with mastectomies out there. So I've been a sewer for years, used to make all my kids' clothes and all that kind of stuff. And so I thought I'd try my hand at bras. So yeah, that's now I'm called One Boob Business. And I make personalized bespoke bras for women with mastectomies or lumpectomies, or just generally one boob vastly different in size to the other. But I also make soft, squishy prosthetics and adapt ready-to-wear bras. So people can go and buy one off the peg, a gorgeous lacy number, and I will adapt it to fit them so that we don't have to walk around wearing grey granny bras, because that seems to be all that's out there.
Yeah, you're right. It is. It's not a great choice.
No.
That is something of a pivot right there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Although I love the idea of you going from being a plasterer to a boob
a bra maker.
Well, what does the future hold for WEvolution then?
Oh, hopefully a complete worldwide domination of women.
Oh, wow, Karen, what a great story, and so inspiring and so wonderful to speak to you. Thank you for joining us and listening to this story. I hope you've been inspired. And if you would like to support the Women's Fund for Scotland, search for us online and listen out for our other podcast episodes.